until you hear her.
Recording in progress.
I'm talking. So greetings to all who are here and greetings to all who will be watching the recording of our session on our YouTube channel. Greetings to all the world who will come to see, to listen, and to share with us what we are caring about. So now I'm starting. Let's imagine that you and me, with me, are entering the fourth floor of Midway Artist Studios from that end, which is marked as staircase number 9. And not the whole light is on in our huge, wide, high hallway. What do you see the first thing from that end to the perspective of it? You see the mysterious alien red glow at the other end of the hallway. All right, if you dare, you step few more steps and you see 5 mysterious signs on that wall, which is on the other way of the hallway. And as much as it is puzzled for you, you are drawn to it by the warmth, by the inviting warmth of those mysterious glowing signs. And it is how we approach to the studio of artist musician N3V3R, known also as John Korbas. So you come closer and you see that the paintings covering the wall at the studio are reflecting the flame, are inflamed by the reflection of those mysterious signs. So we met with John and talked before, just at the beginning that we started preparing for this session. And we talked about paintings and art and music, and suddenly science jumps right into it. Suddenly it came to be the understanding that the frequencies of energy vibrations, which are defining the light and color of paintings, are collaborating here with the sound frequencies of the music that John is creating, and those are coming into fine resonance. And it proves here that what we are fortunate to possess, we are fortunate to possess the treasure, the ability of art making, the will of art making, the talent of art making. And this talent has many facets and faces. And John is the living proof of that wonder. So before John takes it away, I want to assure you that the first question that I asked John when we met, first time, I didn't know him before. The first question I asked, what are those mysterious 5 signs standing for? And John started decoding those to me, and he started from the word never, believe it or not. So before John takes it on and going for it, I will ask him to decode these letters and digits for us, so we all know what it is standing for. All right.
Absolutely.
All is yours.
So, never is, first of all, many things to me, which is why I wrote some of it down here to not miss some of the more important parts. But basically, I chose to name my company, my artist name, my brand after something that could embody everything through its opposite form, as a reminder that perception is the key ingredient when it comes to actually being successful in your art and its purpose. So to me, I might have all the art in the world, but if it's not going to be perceived by someone, then it never existed. So that's a kind reminder to me to be hustling that side of things and actually not just work all the time, but have people be able to see it at a certain point. Also, it's a reminder for my own personal kind of creed that destroying the ego is an important aspect of creating art, that you don't want to be your egotistical self when you make it. And that's where improvisation comes in for me. I find through constant meditation on the actual practice of whatever you're trying to master, whether it be an instrument or painting, having some type of meditative exercise that you can improvise around helps you destroy your own ego and find out what ideas can naturally come to you. Also, furthermore than that, the focus should be on the art and not the artist itself, which is why I've chosen my music name, Never the Artist, because I want people to remember what I do, not necessarily be focused on, me as an actual artist, but just enjoy the thing that they're observing and kind of leave it at that. So then that takes us to the coding of the numerology within it. So it means a bunch of stuff, but basically it's an interplay of two different types of trinities and how they're in conflict with each other, or also exist within each other. So you have the spiritual or religious trinity, which I'm sure we're all familiar with. And then you have the existential trinity here, which is more yourself, your physical existence in space, and then that which exists above that, essentially, which we, don't know all that much about, and it's important to consider that. So also I chose the threes for some level of legal protection as well, because this allowed me to trademark a very broad term under a specific definition. And then it also applies to my use of the word never without the threes and other facets. So I was able to channel some of my unfortunate legal experience there to try to protect my artwork as best as possible. And so that's kind of what never means. It's, it goes into a lot more without, but it's to remember that things are at their best when they're not without each other, but also not with each other, when they're in conflict, but not at conflict. So I think a good example of this are like the colors white and black, which are both opposites of each other, but also both defined by the absence of color. So even though people tend to look at them as a color themselves. So this is a reminder of the duality in all things and the balance that should be inherent within it.
Perfectly beautiful. Not that I am able to understand all the wisdom of your stance, but I loved to listen to it. Now, just go for whatever you want to show to us.
Okay, great. Yeah, so first thing I wanted to start off with was just looking at a couple pieces of visual art that I think reflect that same mentality of improvisation and honesty and getting rid of your ego to, in a sense, be in a flow state. That's what it's more commonly referred to, I think. And also, I think people might consider it to be somewhat, meta or metaphysical, but for me, it's more of a conceptual inception, whereas it's a surreality within another. So first, I'll just move this over here to look at this first painting. Actually, do you mind holding this for me? Or do you want to use your phone, actually, for that? Yeah, I'm actually going to switch. My computer doesn't reach. I'm going to switch over to my phone or my buddy's phone here. So yeah, you can zoom really far in on the main subject there. So this is a painting, and I understand you can't see it very well, but I wanted it to describe the exhaustion that I felt at the time from constantly working on my artwork. And I wanted to achieve that by not sitting there and deliberately trying to figure out how to paint someone that looked at exhausted or an exhausted scene. So what I did is I held my hand out for as long as I could until it literally was, shaking and trembling, almost spastic. And then I lightly held, if you want to zoom in on the hair. Right there. I held it very lightly against the canvas and tried to do a very vague silhouette of a person. And I wanted that to describe how they were essentially not even there, even though they were physically there, that they were almost a husk of themselves, that it could be someone after a long day of work, or maybe even a soldier speared against a tree after fighting a battle. I just wanted to encapsulate that defeated kind of energy that I was trying to portray. So to do so, honestly, I tried to physically exhaust myself to the point of hardly being able to even hold the brush. And for me, that's an example of one of the two modes of art or creation that I have. The first being meditative and improvisational. So I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I just wanted to improvise this. So I did a very light background, and then I tried to look at it to see what I saw within it, just in the little quirks and the little variables and how the paint fell. And then I tried to just, like I said, as a concept, exhaust my arms so I could hardly paint, so that it reflected a person that was essentially hardly there. And I'll show a couple more examples of these kind of meditative practices. And then the second type of art being something that I call, execution, or executionary piece of work, where you're thinking about it ahead of time and then you're combining several elements. So Thomas is going to go over there to the end and show the next one. Yeah, the green one. So this, and you're off the Zoom screen.
Sorry, John, we didn't see the other one also.
Okay, you didn't see this one. I think that's the next one after the first one. So this, if you want to get closer to that as well, this was, I had some extra paint basically. And in the top corner where the red is, that's where we'll focus on right now, the far right corner. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So basically I had some extra paint left over from painting some furniture. So what I did is I just let it drip over this old painting I no longer wanted anymore. After doing that, I noticed that it created a grid almost like city planning naturally. So I accentuated that to make it look like a faraway, vacant skyscape. And then I wanted to, now you can look at the whole subject. I wanted to portray the sacrifice that is, required to basically create this whole world that we live in, all of the actual construction we live in, the people that work on it. And yeah, so I basically had a model get covered in body paint, and then I had them concentrate on enacting the feeling of being totally exhausted and defeated in there, as if they had just created something, and do some slight movements so it wasn't just one static print that you got on the canvas, but almost to act as if you were, just totally deflated and essentially just dying on the canvas after you built someone else's city for them to live in.
John, hold on one sec. Did you want to share screen?
Because we don't see the paintings that you're or the example.
Oh, okay. Yes. All right. That's how you do
Do
it.
you have them on your screen or?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So just,
sorry, I haven't used Zoom for quite a long time.
It's okay. It's okay. Below your picture, there's a share screen button. Mm-hmm. So just click on it.
Okay.
It will open a window, and just find whatever it is that you want to show.
But it would be on your computer, though. It would have to be on.
John, what else you could also do is if you click on Tom's, on his window, and you click pin.
Okay, that's what that means.
Will bring up his camera.
Thank you, Trisha.
Thank you, Trisha, for the win.
Yeah, you can even click. I think if you have the option to spotlight it, because as the host, you should be able to spotlight it so that it brings it up large for everyone else.
Okay.
It's a spotlight.
I'm not seeing that here. Do you know where spotlight is on this now?
I think if you click on those three dots next to his name on the Zoom screen, it might say spotlight.
Okay. No, I'm actually not.
There it is.
I did it.
Oh, okay,
I was
awesome.
faster. Okay, sorry for the interruption, but we wanted to
No,
make
no, that's
sure-
problem. I didn't see that option, so that's perfect. Yeah, so to go back, this is the exhausted man that I was talking about. So basically, I did this canvas. I noticed a tree, so I kind of accentuated that. And then the gentleman there against the tree is what I had painted after I had held my hand out so long that I basically couldn't hold it up any longer, couldn't paint. So you could see his face, especially, it comes out very, vague and almost ghostly, like he's not really there. Great. And now this is the next one that I was talking about with the paint that was leftover paint from painting some furniture. I don't like to get rid of anything, so I basically had a drip over there until I noticed the city, and then here in the red is the subject I was just discussing in the middle. With an actual print of a hammer next to it. So again, these were two improvised concepts where we just did it in real time and tried to focus on the energy with the subject of the painting, so that it wasn't necessarily how they looked, but more so the energy that they were trying to convey. The next one here is another type of meditative practice what I did, and you can flip that around so it's the other side on the top. Thank you. So basically, I'm big into science and big into math, calculations, even some computer programming. One thing that's always fascinated me is the Fibonacci sequence. So I really wanted to try to vaguely paint someone, multiple kind of, body, natural type of lines on a painting, all based on that sequence. And rather than, getting out the tools to actually calculate it, I used the natural joints of my body. So, for smaller strokes, my finger joint, I would use it almost like it was a tool. Same for my wrist, elbow. And I thought that was an interesting concept, and one that I use in music, where the concepts flow within each other, where the Fibonacci sequence was, derived from observing nature. And here I'm using the one that's naturally within my own body to try to paint one as an observation of the original nature it was based around. Great, and then this will be the last painting right here. And this here is more of an executed plan, and this is the bottom right here. This is more of an executed plan using all of those techniques that I just showed you. So it's not incredibly high def, but at the bottom, you have a body print of people that I wanted to essentially be in a grave underneath those flowers. So we did the body print technique where I had them enact that same feeling of submission and, having to give in to higher circumstance. And then I used some of the other stress technique for the top figure there, who's, essentially the overlord of the painting. And then I did some of the, the architectural stuff, like the building I had noticed in the first one. So this is actually supposed to be, in a sense, the timeline of the evacuation of the embassy in Vietnam. So I tried to actually execute, an abstract plan based on all those lessons that I had otherwise learned using the natural curve in my own joints, the body prints, and the tense exhaustion in my stroke, basically. So that will be all for the visual stuff. And now we would like to just quickly go back to some music here. And we had a couple different things planned out here, but we've decided to simplify it for technical purposes. But basically, we are going to be just using a couple different concepts that I just described in the visual art to do some live music improvisation. So let me just get my screen back on here. Great. So we'll do flowers or can't stop first. Flowers. Okay. Great. So the music we'll be playing tonight is, again, that conceptual inception that I was telling you guys about where we're going to pay homage to the original form of music of jazz, and then we're going to take a look at how that was then sampled into hip hop music. So my one of my collaborators here, Tom, who also goes by the name Hamma, basically is chopping up a random jazz sample in real time, and he's going to make it into separate phrases that you might find in a hip hop production of a song. And then he's going to sequence them in live time while we play instruments over there, thus returning back to the origin of jazz with the actual hip hop phrasing and technology that came out during that time. Great, that would be the first one. So that's a little more of a fully flushed out song on his part, where we try to follow along with what he is doing as the driver of the song. So the next one we're gonna do is gonna be a little more vacant. So that gives us all a little more room to discuss with each other via the instruments. Fellas, yo. That'll be all the music for now. And just so you know, this is the first time any of us have played together, because if you're gonna do, a speech about improvisation and honesty, you have to honestly improvise. So we thought we'd give you guys a look into that process.
That was so cool. Yes.
Great. And now basically all three of us will just, take any questions that anyone has, talk some more about anything, but that's basically all we have prepared to go over for now.
You know what I would do if exhibition committee of Midway Studios agrees with me? I would make the show of your paintings, and within that show would ask you to play.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
When you were playing, I could envision the paintings because I am looking at them every day, actually, because I live here on that very floor. And it comes together so perfectly well. And the volume of intensity of your music that I could almost physically feel goes so in tune and into resonance with the growing intensity of your painting, because I was watching how you kept adding new paintings on the wall, and the feeling from that growing wall was very close to what I felt when I was listening to you.
Awesome. Thank you. That's very humbling. I appreciate that greatly.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, that's actually, that's something I've been doing on my own at my performances. I used to want to do all these different aspects of art for my own career. And, when I wasn't that old, I found out that it takes a lot of time if you're going to be doing everything separately that you want to do in life. So in the terms of that, inception of ideas I was talking about, I've done all this to try to be able to do it holistically and give a view and have the paintings complement the art, have a similar type of energy. Even some of our other projects like our fashion design and stuff that we didn't want to go over tonight because we have a lot of stuff that we need to still get, and it's kind of sloppy going over all the samples in here, but tries to play into that same theme where it's utilized as a performance piece and as a part of the brand itself. So that would be truly amazing to do a performance and an exhibition here at the same time.
Yes, and when you mentioned fashion design, and when I found the mention of it on your site, and then when we talked, I thought about the phenomenon of fashion design in life and of the society. It reflects everything that happens within the society at the moment when that fashion is getting fashioned. So
right, exactly. And that's something I used to actually stay away from wanting to participate in the fashion world because, I have certain views on the way that it operates in today's society. But at the end of the day, my decision was that people do, in fact, need clothes. And I do, in fact, need to get my art out there. So finding a way to do it where it's true to itself and reflects the other stuff we're doing, made sense to me.
That is true. And, sometimes, and that'll be the last thing that I say so other people could talk to you as well. In fashion, in clothing, I'm glad that you mentioned that. In clothing, there is one very interesting feature, for me at least. I'm not that very interested, though, of course, I have to have some clothing on myself as well, on having something special for me, on me, because I cannot see it. What I can see as a visual person by profession, I can see what other people are doing with that. And having those different individuals presenting the visual world through their appearance is very exciting and important for me. That's why I'm always interested in fashion, in high fashion as well, because it's not only casual fashion that we all need to wear. There is some kinds of fashion designs and creations which are not able to have for using public transportation, for example.
Right, exactly.
But however, it is very interesting. So I'm just very, very excited to think about such a possibility. of having presented everything that you just briefly present to us in a very minimal scale, in much bigger scale at the gallery. Plus, your involvement with mathematics is also very telling.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And yeah, we would love to do it on a bigger scale. I mean, honestly, one of the things we're adapting to since getting in here, myself as an artist and the people that I work with here is figuring out a way to translate what we typically do to a smaller scale. Because we're used to performing at clubs or residencies. And, for many reasons, we want to get more into the art gallery side of that, try to infuse those worlds, because I think there's a more purist approach when you incorporate art, when you have slightly earlier hours where you get people that are more genuinely going to look at, reflect on, listen to what you're doing, whereas opposed to, being out at the club and they're there listening to our music, trying to have a good time and pick up someone or something like that, which still like playing those shows because, music is great out and in society, but we really want to be doing both and to do larger scale things with, more artistic minded people and, in a place like this. So that's definitely very interesting.
Yes, especially when you think about a warmer time, when not only the gallery is to be used, but also opening the door into the outer space, as several times happened already, and it worked so well. And there are some places around the building, at the building, that allows to enlarge the space of presentation. That's it. Now I'm done, and all attendees are welcome to ask their questions or to do their comments or just to engage with John.
Great. And I'll say, feel free to ask my collaborators here some questions. They're both very talented as well. Not while he's eating food right now, but after that.
Just unmute yourself before talking to John, please.
So should I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
This is capitalism, Milan. First one to it wins.
I have a question.
Yes.
A painting of exhausted man leaning toward the tree, is pretty much performance piece.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. But my question is, how would you pass this knowledge on the audience if they see just that painting?
Well, my hope is that if I do it in its purest, best form, then what I'm trying to communicate will be inherent in that. So, the product is perceived, but my intention is that my method translates the energy to the point where that's not a question that, is really on my or their radar. I would obviously like to do something in a performance capacity where I actually do that in live time or explain that. But as far as the final product, my hope is that me having done that performance for myself to make the art is enough to translate that energy into it, where it's just that will be the sole focus, basically.
Because it would work if you would do it in front of the audience.
Yeah, and that's actually
and it would work because this is a record of your performance.
Right.
Final product.
Right, and actually your piece of the soup kind of reminds me of that.
It's not enough as the whole complexity of that art piece,
Right.
That you present only product without a context.
Yeah, I mean, even maybe having like a screen recording the process, put a little screen next to it, if I weren't going to actually just do it in live time. But yeah, I think that would be very powerful to, basically have to watch me holding my arm out for, an hour or so, and then finally painting this one very small portion of the project. My hope is also that by taking that longer investment for what it takes to paint, 5-10 minutes part of the painting, by investing an hour of nothingness, not doing anything before it, you put that power into it as if you had painted for that long. So I think that would be cool to communicate that, to show them that.
would you consider, for example, to spend 2 months in gallery every day, like 8 hours doing
Yeah, I mean, definitely. That's what I do in my own life, working anyway. So that's actually that's perfect. You mentioned that because that's what never home is to me, which is what we call our studio space, which is like you are not essentially home, even though you are, because you're working to make your gallery. So yeah, I would be very interested in doing David Blaine-ish, stay in a gallery for as long as possible type thing.
It's like Abramovich. She was sitting in the gallery in New York the whole time of her show, several months.
Excellent. No, that's great.
And,
I mean,
and there was that power at that moment, of that.
well, yeah, and that's truth, and that's what I mean by the honesty. That I wanted to portray in this presentation wasn't necessarily that I'm being honest with you. This is an absolute fact. It's living that honesty. So if that's the message you're trying to get across, you basically lead by example. You become an actor in that piece of work.
Yeah, and the same, of course, applies to your mathematical joint movements.
Yeah, that's true. I had actually done that. Started as a practice to just perfect doing it naturally. But you're right. That would also be a really cool way to do
it's a performance piece, so you should be doing it in front of the audience.
Definitely, yeah. Well, we should also meet up and talk about that in some more detail. I'd love your, some input from your experience, because I know you do some pretty powerful performance art. So I would definitely like to pick your brain about that.
Yeah, no problem, of course. Okay, I don't want to take over. Other people ask, please. I have millions of other questions, but I don't want to take over. People
will write them down and we can go over them anytime. Anyone at all?
John, I have a question.
Yes.
So you mentioned that you play music in larger venues, like big, and then you were thinking of maybe adapting that into a smaller scale, which I think is kind of interesting that you mentioned that, because it's almost like the concept of chamber music.
Yes, exactly. And as I'm sure you're familiar with, there's some really talented, some of the best performances of all time, taking place in that capacity.
Right. So it's actually a great idea to explore, because I think it makes it a little bit more personal in a way, because when you're in a big venue, you get lost. The music is there, but you don't see the performer. It's like when you have a small theater, you go to a small theater, you actually see the actors, and you could feel the energy there.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what we're going for. And one of the reasons why I think, improvisation is another important facet again, is because that allows us to do a lot of shows in a smaller capacity and change it for ourselves each time as well. So that we're not simply repeating the same thing over and over again, but having a different take on the experience each time to keep it fresh for ourselves and the audience.
Great. Yeah, that's great.
John, can I ask? Am I right? There was your piece, that little animation in the last.
Yes, exactly.
There was, yeah. I just wanted to be sure. Why didn't you also show your animation? And by the way, a little comment. I was very pissed that some idiot from Midway was always turning down your sound piece, because I consider it, of course, as your artwork. And now I see that you do like music, I don't understand why there is such a fucking idiot who was turning it always down. By the way, we caught that person on camera already.
Okay.
Okay, well,
and as you notice,
talk about that later.
You notice the audio is ever since on.
Yeah, people don't actually want to be seen doing that. They just want to do it for themselves. So it's.
But I don't understand why they were like that person was turning off the artwork.
You and me both. I've been saying that about all the stuff down there as well. So.
But anyway, he was caught.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear. And
We
I'm
set
glad-
the trap. Boom.
And that piece is interesting too, because that piece of music was recorded almost in exactly the same manner as this one here, where basically I improv'd all the music, and then I had a couple vocalists and myself in, and we had conversations back and forth with the music, and then I took samples of, you know, those parts and rearrange them to tell the proper story. But I essentially wanted them to lose their inhibition, to be in the flow state, not be trying to overwrite something. So I asked them to say whatever their truth was into the microphone, and then we all sat down and wrote the story together with those, you know, parcels of words.
Yeah, that was my question.
I loved that piece, and I was looking who was the creator of that animation piece. And I think that I watched it like a couple of dozen times. And every time I was able to find the detail that I didn't notice before. And it was so strange and interesting, just perfect. I really agree. Not always I agree with Milan, and Milan knows that. But in this particular case, I do agree with him that the sound had to be the necessary part of that piece, just must be.
Right, exactly, because the you know, the images were actually about 3 hours worth of stock, individual stock stop frames that I found from, I don't know, probably 1910, 1920, and I combed through all those hours and turned them into about 2 minutes of blending in the various scenes to fade into each other using animation software to do that. But the music is the visuals are a mere reflection of the music, which is the main piece. The visuals are very minimalistic and almost fleeting, so that you're not overly concerned with them. So yeah, that definitely does need the music on. I appreciate you agreeing with that. Great. Anything else? Anyone got any other questions?
The beginning of your song reminded me the underground band Plastic People of the Universe from the Czech.
Okay, I'm gonna have to make a note of that, actually.
You don't need to make note, come, you know, I have their complete music, you know, recordings here in my place. They were my friends, you know, and it was exactly like, yeah, we would
Yeah, well, you know, oddly enough, maybe it is, you know, a sample of one of their tunes, because, you know, we go deep to find our sources. And Hama over here, this gentleman, he is a connoisseur of obscure music not from this country, and we try to work with things to really pay homage to different, you know, genres and moments in time and history. Not, you know, like a lot of people might just sample like Taylor Swift and put it in their new, you know, EDM song. We like to go deep into the bag of the things that we really like ourselves and try to give it new life. So, you know, maybe if it's not one of them, we'll have to check out that music though and see.
Come, I will play it to you.
It'd be interesting to know what your collaborators can comment how on your mutual projects, on the collaboration as phenomenon. Can we?
Yeah, absolutely. Would you like to come up here and talk about our collaboration briefly?
Yeah, for sure.
Just few words.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, you know, they're both very talented guys, so please feel free to pick their brains as well. Please.
Hi, my name's Namdi officially, but I go by Bellige, short for belligerent. And mainly, the reason why I go by that is because I believe I have a sound. I'm a vocalist as well, so you know, I believe my sound's very unique in the sense that it's warlike, and it's very provocative. So, like even my guitar playing, I try to mimic my voice as much as I can. The bends, the way I sing is the same way. But yeah, John and I, we make music. We've made music for a couple of years, and pretty much everything we do is improv.
Really?
Yeah, there's nothing really ever truly ever said. I would say this is probably the first time we tried to plan, and even the songs that we made, we didn't even do. So, yeah, that's pretty much me.
Cool. You know what people say about improvisation. There is the term well-prepared improvisation, which I would decode as you nourish yourself for a long time. You feed your whatever sources you put in your inner storage, just to pull out from there unexpectedly what you feel needed for the moment of improvisation. As I understand, it is exactly what you do.
It's exactly how it is. I couldn't have said it any better. It's literally the epitome of it. A little bit.
Cool. And I hope that if these improvised plans of having you all in our gallery, at our gallery at Midway Studios at some point, and Milan is, I believe, thinking in that direction already, then we will all experience that well-prepared improvisation of yours.
It would be an honor. It would be an absolute honor.
Very good. And I see somebody else.
Yeah, that's can you guys hear me okay?
Very nice to meet you all, guys.
Yeah, my stage name is Hammer. My birth name, I guess, is Tom. That's me on the video. That showed you guys John's fine art here. I guess I'd say my role in the band, for lack of better words, is as you see back there. You probably can't see it that well, but that is MPC drum machine. So essentially, I am a music producer. I have zero classical conditioning, can't read music, know my way around 88 keys simply from using the MIDI keyboard for so long. So I think one powerful, like really sick thing for me about collaborating with these gentlemen is that, you know, they're musicians by the traditional definition. So, you know, they say, hey, we're going in the C minor. I'm like, which just tell me which button that is. I feel like, you know, with so much of what I do as a producer is software based, where you're kind of confined to sequences and BPMs and tracks, where it's like a whole lot more structured, for lack of better words. And it's easy to kind of get stuck into a loop rhythm where it's like, you know, there's little to variation in what you're doing. Your window to even improv is very limited. So with these jam sessions, where like we've just been creating Spitfire, and just, you know, it's been awesome to really, you know, again, highlight on the improv nature of things, to get out of the creative bubble. So it's been awesome.
You know what? It is awesome even to listen to you. Just how you say it and what you're saying. It is just so how to explain it? Like witnessing the performance art in a way, right, Milan?
Yes.
And you know,
because improvisation is part of performance art. Yeah.
Of course, yes. And you know, there are a lot of things in the world of art and music and everything, but whatever way you choose to reach your perfection, whatever your perfection is, whatever way you choose, if you get that result, hooray, you're good, you're great, you're genius. Just whatever is convenient, comfortable, working well, bringing the result. Very good, positive
Right,
result.
exactly. I think having the you know, the improvisation be a veil that covers, you know, our writing methodology and stuff like that, is that it encourages people to just do or say whatever's on their mind. You know, in a more traditional songwriting process, people might feel timid or, you know, have to essentially prove themselves before they can put something down on a track. But if you're going into an improv session, then someone's talent is going to speak for themselves, and they don't really need to justify anything. If it feels good, then it feels good. And generally people, you know, will all pick up on that together with their shared energy and empathy.
Yes, exactly right. Art jam is well-known term, but at some point, what we did in the gallery that I created some years ago, we did art jam. So the same concept, And at some point, we even combined them, music and art in improvisational mode. And those who participated in it were professional, unprofessional, children. The best participants in those jams were children.
Yeah.
And word creating poems. The best poem created in that setting was the poem created by a 5-year-old girl. And the poem I have forgotten, but I have it printed somewhere in my closet. So, you know, it is just such a good idea and such a good plan. I hope it will be accomplished. Before we thank each other and part, I would like to bring to your attention that when I have the poster for this session printed at the place where I have usually printed them, the young man, more or less of your age, John, maybe, I think that about your age, he said, familiar face. I think that I knew I met that, I saw that person.
Yep, wouldn't surprise me. I get that a lot. I mean, I've been living here since downtown since I was 18, and I've been trying to do as much as I can in this city for my music and art throughout that time. So I've definitely gotten around all the neighborhoods here.
I don't know where that young man lives, though. Probably our state or maybe outside of the state, because the
really?
place, it's somewhere in the Metro West. It's not downtown. Somewhere.
Okay, well,
so there is about your
I've been around, as Johnny Cash would say, so.
Yep. Very good. Thank you so very much.
Yes,
all
thank
of
you for having us. We appreciate it.
It was just enjoyable, truly enjoyable from the first second when we met and started building that project to the moment of now. Very enjoyable. Looking forward to be continued.
Excellent. Likewise. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. You all have a good night. Thank you for having us.
Good night.
Long live jazz. Yes.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We'll put out any music you want next time, Milan. We got you.
I actually love jazz, you know, because it is the best artistic product of United States of America.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
And I am still more and more realizing how powerful it is because it's a melting pot. Jazz is melting pot. I know now I sound like a little bit politically incorrect.
That's okay.
But jazz is a melting pot, and we should just stress jazz to just melt together, not to be separated to different.
Yes, no, I totally agree.
How they are like now focused on the different identities. It's like millions of identities. Let's put it together like jazz.
Oh, beautiful.
Totally agree.
Well, that's my little comment. You know, some people would kill me probably for that.
No. Not us.
Oh, yeah. Those identity politics people, you know, hate my comment, you know.
Forget about it. Jazz is great.
Using freedom of speech. It's another value of this society, which is now under strong attack. Freedom of speech. You know, we should fight for freedom of speech.
We shouldn't fight. We should make art and music. It is what we should do.
No, but sometimes, you know.
My hope is that my music and my art will help facilitate that change more naturally.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll see the subversion in there, you know, that I want it to be subtle.
Thank you, comrades.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. You have a good night.
Revolution. Revolution.
Sure.
Yes, I'm on board. All right. Bye.